do not have to do this alone. That's the whole point. You don't have to suffer from panic attacks for years and years and years. You don't have to sit alone in your grief and wonder if what you're experiencing is normal, or you don't have to Google coping skills. There are people who went to school for this. We have trained, I had to clock 3,000 hours of individual therapy before I could even be licensed. There are people that can help you find solutions to live a life that is more enjoyable and sustainable to you.
Welcome back to another episode of Spread the Positive podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Flipson, and I'm here with Sara Amos from Sparrow Creek Counseling, and we are going to dive into all things mental health today. So welcome to the podcast.
Yay. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes.
I love what you guys are doing. Spreading the positive is kind of a message that we all need. So like you said, my name is Sara Amos. I am the owner, therapist, lead therapist at Sparrow Creek Counseling. We're based out of Nashville, but we serve the whole state of Tennessee through virtual therapy.
Awesome.
And I'm excited to talk about mental health with you
Great.
today.
Yes. So I have to know, where did the name come from?
Thank you so much for asking that.
Yes.
I want to tell everyone about it, but not many people ask. And I want to be like, don't you want to know about the name?
Right.
Don't you want to know about the cute little bird?
Yes. There has to be a story.
There is. So I don't know how old you are, but when I turned 40, I suddenly got really into birds. So I think it happens. It's a natural thing. You get just a bird book in the mail and you're into birds. And in this journey of learning about birds, I discovered that sparrows specifically know how to protect themselves. So when it's storming, when food is scarce, when the weather is just not conducive to bird life, they will find a cool, dry place to rest and preserve their energy. And that's rather than powering through a storm, right? And so that's how their species actually grows, because of that insight that they naturally have. And that just kind of aligns with my view of therapy, of healing, of being a person. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to learn how to read the room, read the weather, read our resources, check on ourselves, and kind of rest sometimes before we fight through. So
perfect.
I kind of look at therapy as like the creek where you're resting, and sparrows come in and rest with me. Yes. And then we'll kind of get you what you need to go back out and
spread those wings and fly.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's where it came from.
Very cool. I love that. Well, I love birds.
Welcome.
Do you have a bird feeder camera?
Oh, I don't have a camera yet, but we have an excessive amount of bird feeders.
Okay.
I've got that on my, wish list if someone in my family would take the hint.
Hint. Very cool. I have one too. It's not set up. But my best friend has one, and she sends me stuff all the time.
Birds are so cool. This is now going to become become a bird podcast.
Yeah.
They really are so cool.
Yes. Well, that's awesome. I didn't know that about sparrows.
Yeah.
And so that's a perfect name.
Yeah, I thought so. I rebranded kind of recently, like about a year and a half ago. And so I went from just calling it Sara Amos Counseling to I wanted a different name because I was bringing on team members.
Sure.
And so I was trying to think of what really encapsulates what I see therapy, the purpose. And that's kind of how it came together.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. So what first drew you to counseling? And like why here? Why grief? Why trauma? Why do you want to take that on when you probably deal with some of that yourself?
Sure.
So give us a little insight to why this is your career path.
Yeah. So for me, it was kind of a slow burn. In undergrad, I hopped around to a bunch of different majors based on what was conducive to my sorority life schedule, basically, and found myself in the social work department. And I had grown up in a very service-oriented type of family. And so it just sort of made sense to, once I started studying a career path, essentially, that was based on serving other people, that just kind of fit naturally with what I had grown up doing. My dad was a pastor. I grew up just kind of, feeding the homeless,
serving people.
Yeah, just doing those sorts of things felt very natural to me. And so it wasn't as intentional at the beginning. I started, the first half of my career was much more social work oriented, big systems, I worked in foster care, community mental health. I spent some time overseas working in a community mental health setting. And then the more that I worked within those huge systems, the more I just found myself drawn to the individual stories, individual people, really trying to champion individuals. And in some systems work, you just have, you kind of lose the individual, which is a part of why the system works. But I found myself just more and more drawn to individuals. And so I got a master's in social work, which allowed the clinical counseling piece. So that's how I kind of slowly discovered, okay, instead of serving people, I like serving individuals. And then people who've experienced difficulty, I just found I was really drawn to some of these harder stories, and the pieces just sort of came together. I wouldn't say that I like working in trauma, but it does feel like the right fit.
Sure.
And so I just feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Yeah.
Well, and it's kind of like the domino effect, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of starting with a community,
yeah,
you're more focused on an individual that then can hopefully learn and overcome and spread that on to make a bigger impact across their community, the nation, the world, or whatever.
That is exactly my view too. And because I was in the field of social work for about 15 years before I went into individual therapy practice, and knowing that nurses, other helpers, nurses, teachers, police officers, social workers, pastors, if they are not well and taken care of, then that impacts large groups of society, right? And so this individual take on therapy, I really do try to target the helpers or be a beacon of support for those individual helpers, because they impact so many other people, you know.
Right.
That's true for all of us, but helpers have a unique burden on them to do their job well.
Right. Yeah, and I get that. So like when you switched over, or, you know, kind of changed routes from the social work to the more individualized therapy, are you getting down into the deeper feelings and traumas and all of that than you were able to do in a social work position?
That's a really interesting question, and something that I don't usually take the time to look at. But I have noticed there are things I miss about being more in a system, because I could kind of, like when I worked in the school system, I may not work with a specific student the whole 4 years that they're in high school, but I had the opportunity to kind of see them and know that they were doing well and know that they were flourishing from a distance. So that was nice. Versus in private practice, I only know what you tell me in the office. You know, I have some people who here's a free tip. It's okay to ghost your therapist. I have people who are like, I'll call you when I have time to schedule, and then they just don't. And you know, maybe they're sick of me, or maybe life happens, you know, they move, other things get crazy. I just fall to the bottom of their list. And so sometimes I don't know how they're doing, and that's just part of it. So within the system, I could kind of see how people were still doing, but I could only ever get so deep in that setting. And so here I can really, people share more in the privacy of an office. I get to walk with them longer and more personally sometimes, but I do miss being able to know when people are doing well, because I never really see my clients happy. Right. You know, once you're doing better, you move on. You leave the nest, so to speak. Right. And so I always want to hear from them, but I also want them to get well and move on from me.
Well, hopefully that's your graduation marker when they don't come back to you, that they're flying free. Yeah,
my hope is that everyone who's ever stepped into my office knows they can always come back. And I always tell them that, like, you can always come back at any point. Your case is always open. You can always come back to the nest if you need a tune-up or something happens.
Very cool.
So yes, I don't know if that fully answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's kind of what I was asking. So, because it's different, right?
It is very different.
So, and I'm just looking at it from like an individual person who has gone to therapy, who was against therapy when I was growing up, because I don't like to talk. Haha, I'm on a podcast. That's pretty funny. But I would rather just bottle my emotions in and not deal with it. But the weight that is lifted or was lifted off my shoulders when I finally was like, I'll go talk to someone. And my biggest thing was always like, I'm not going to go talk to a stranger about my feelings.
Sure.
But the therapist that I had, she was like a godsend because I never felt that way with her ever. And I think you have to find your person, right? That you can trust, because it's a very vulnerable situation.
Absolutely.
And I think that you also can, you may have great chemistry in the beginning, and you learn and you are implementing the ideas and the help that you've provided. And then you go implement it yourself. Therapy is good.
In summary, therapy is
yes.
awful.
Yes. So you, and you kind of touched on this, like flying the nest, but how do you deal with people that are surviving, right? Surviving the craziness of the world. What is it like when you see them, or is there a specific marker that you see where you can see them finding that passion, the light in themselves again? Explain that a little
like
bit.
how do I know that they're getting better, so to speak? Yeah. One thing, and I tell people this in the first session, here's what I'm looking for. Treatment or healing is not linear. Especially when we're talking about grief and trauma recovery, sometimes there's not a step or a step-by-step workbook that we're going to work through. When you hit step 7, you're free. What I'm usually watching for, though, I always ask people on the front end, what does feeling better look like to you? And so some people will identify, my house won't be such a disaster, or I won't have all these racing thoughts, or they can kind of pinpoint the thing that brought them in. And I'm always keeping tabs on when that thing is changing for them.
Okay.
And another thing I'm looking for is, and this is if anyone listening is going to therapy, if you're in this position, if they are just telling me what they encountered and how they handled it, and I'm just doing a lot of, absolutely, that was the right way to do it, great job, I'm so proud of you, then they're doing the work on their own, right? And so some people want to stay beyond that point for the support, and that therapy is kind of what you make it, so that's fine. But I'm always quick to identify, you really didn't need me for that. You're just reporting that you used what we learned and the work we did in here, you used it out there in the world, and that's the goal. So that's kind of what I'm watching for.
Very cool. So if someone comes into you for grief or trauma or something, what techniques and tools do you use? And feel free to share what I don't know, you may have some secrets. So, but just what are some, or maybe give the listener some free advice on when to seek, when it's appropriate to seek counseling, and kind of what are the steps that they're going to go through.
Okay. That was a couple of questions.
Yes.
Let me start with when to seek therapy.
Okay.
How's that? And then I can talk a little more about my approach.
Sure.
Because I don't want to get into the weeds of my education. I'll tell you when to seek therapy. When I usually tell people, when you find that your friends, your family, your partner, when they're responding to your pain or your story with, I don't know what to tell you. That's a common thing, right? You tell your best friend about your breakup and they listen, and then the 3rd or 4th or 57th time you're talking about it, your friend is like, I have nothing new to say. That's a sign that your friend is doing all they can do. So when you have noticed that your support people can't offer what you need, you probably need more than just a listening ear, a space to vent, because a lot of people have that. It's the healing from trauma for a lot of us takes more than just venting and being heard. That is a piece of the healing, but there is tons of research around how the brain recovers from trauma and how we can soothe the body and retrain trauma responses, and that really needs professional guidance. So that's one thing I tell people. If you find that you are feeling like you're not yourself, I have a lot of people who come in and they can't quite say what the thing is. They just say, I'm miserable. I don't feel like myself. I can't do my job the way I used to. I feel like I'm failing with my family, with my friends, with my job. Just something is off and I can't get myself together, right? Sometimes we, clinicians are really skilled at finding what might seem like hidden symptoms of anxiety, of depression, of other mental health issues that need to be treated, that have sort of gotten lost in the flurry of, well, I just had a baby, of course I'm stressed, or of course I'm anxious, or I'm moving, or my job is stressful, or I'm going through a divorce. Life can hide those symptoms. So that's where a clinical insight can help more so than your friend, your mom, your coworker, because we're looking for these very specific symptoms about your sleep patterns, how your heart rate is responding, just things that we're trained to watch for and to ask about. So that's kind of how you know you need therapy. I'm talking a lot. Do you want me to go ahead?
No, this is great. Keep going.
My personal approach is, I went to school for a long time. I've studied trauma for a long time. Not to bore you with like the science, I'm sort of a psychoanalytic person, which is meaning I am always looking at how our early experiences are impacting who we are today. So I don't have people laying on the couch like Freud talking about, what their mom said to them. But I think our early experiences impact how we see ourselves and how we see the world. So
it's how you were raised.
Exactly.
Right. And
yes. You don't know what you don't know.
Right. And you think that's how I was raised and that's how it's supposed to be. And it may not be.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone.
Yes.
Everyone's mom and dad raises them differently.
And our brains just take in the 4 or 5-year-old brain, works with the context that it has, the maturity that it has, it doesn't know what it doesn't know. So sometimes these narratives about ourselves get locked in very early, and sometimes it's from traumatic, abusive situations, and sometimes it's from very normal, somewhere along the way, someone got a message that they weren't as good as their sibling, right? And no one intended to send that message, but that's what locked in. And then that person's been living their whole life trying to prove themselves, right? So I'm kind of always going at this, let's figure out how we got here. Let's figure out what's not working right now, and let's change how you move in the world moving forward. So I'm kind of always jumping around with people's timelines.
Okay.
We use a lot of talk therapy. I also am trained in EMDR, which is a somatic processing that helps specifically with trauma and grief, but it can really, it's a way to soothe the nervous system while you are processing. So I use it frequently just to help clients kind of regulate and relax while we're processing whatever they're sharing about.
Sure. So when you say talk therapy,
just talking, yeah,
what we're doing now, just talking back and forth.
So it's sort of under the umbrella of cognitive therapy, meaning you're using your brain to think. So you're telling me the story, I'm asking questions, kind of helping you think about your story, about yourself, challenging your negative beliefs, your the habits you already have, working with your intrusive thoughts. So it just involves the ability to think and respond and talk through what we're thinking about. That's where the EMDR is, it doesn't require talking so much. It's sort of just your body responding, and that can help sometimes with things that are heavier, harder to process.
And is that EMDR? Mm-hmm. And what does that stand for again?
It's an abbreviation for eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Okay.
You know why we shorten it.
Absolutely.
It is, in a nutshell, the idea of bilateral stimulation, which means stimulating both hemispheres of your brain, which relaxes your nervous system. It's the same effect as walking. So have you ever noticed you take a walk with a friend, you're venting about something, and you're like, I feel so much better. Could be the friend, could be the open air, but the walking soothes your nervous system. So I just kind of manually stimulate both sides of your brain. There's handheld buzzers you can hold. There's a way to put on headphones and hear different tones, or there's a light we can follow. But either way, it's stimulating both sides of your brain while you are processing your trauma. And so since it relaxes your nervous system, it allows you to scoot further in your mind, to scoot further away from the trauma to where you're observing it. That's the reprocessing piece. You're observing that it happened rather than being in fight or flight mode every time you think about it.
Very cool.
So it's a lot of research around it in a very short
time span. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Brian Nail, and I'm a mortgage loan officer with Primis Bank. I just want to say how much I truly enjoy being a part of the Spread the Positive Network. It's an incredible mission that brings so much positivity to our community. It's been a real pleasure to be involved. Now, when it comes to financing a home, there are a lot of options. And in a market like today's, having the guidance of a trusted local professional can make all the difference. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home, second home, an investment property, or explore refinancing options, I'd love the opportunity to earn your trust and help guide you through the process. If I can help you nail your mortgage, give me a call at 615-243-3976 or visit nailyourmortgage.com.
All right. So, your website.
Yes.
Love this on your website. It says, we all struggle to navigate loss. What is one misconception people have about grief that you wish those people or all people understood more?
Yeah, that is a great, grief is so universal. We all experience grief, and it is also often misunderstood. And I find that most people that come to me with a specific thing they're grieving, a loss of someone, typically want to be better, back to normal. They want to function like they used to. And I spend a lot of time telling people that you are a different person now. You are now living in a different reality than you lived in before. And so what used to be is just not there anymore, right? It's loss on top of loss, but also you don't need to hold yourself to this standard because it's no longer relevant. You're a different person
right
now. So kind of recreating that. What does it look like to live in the world, to be in my family, to be in my job, to be me with this loss I've experienced as part of my life? Really just letting people know it's okay to be different. I think I usually see so much relief when that occurs to them that I can stop working so hard to get back to who I was before, because now I'm different.
Right.
I'm someone different.
Well, not only are you grieving the loss of a person, but then you're going to be grieving the loss of the life.
Absolutely.
That you were living.
There's a million losses.
So there's all these losses.
Yeah, I
in
had a
grief.
client who compared loss to those spiders that carry all their babies on their back.
Oh, wow.
It's like not just the big loss is the mama spider, and then there's just all these little, which is a really gross mental image.
You kick the spider and it's like a bajillion spiders go flying all over the place.
Yeah, a million other losses that you're carrying around on your back.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's maybe this could turn into a counseling session for myself. I'm
here for it. Don't make eye contact with me unless you want to talk mental health.
Right, right. So I lost my grandmother, Mama, in November. And very unexpected. She lived in Florida with my uncle. And so we got all of her stuff up here. My uncle's now moved up here, which is awesome. But my mom and my mom just bought a house, and so now we're unpacking and going through all those things. And so I texted my best friend the other day and I said, this is like, I thought I was fine. Right. Sure. And then you open a box and it's this one thing that I saw was this little plaque that said grandma on it. It was like a little poem. And I was like, I remember giving that to her. So that hits you. And then, you go on your day, and then, the next day I went back over to my mom's and I open it up, and it's she was my flower girl at my wedding. And it was the basket that she had. And so then I'm living that, right? And then I'm thinking, well, how are we ever going to throw these things away?
Sure.
And then what do you throw away?
Yeah.
And what do you keep? And so my mom and I have been looking at each other like, are you going to keep it? Am I going to keep it? Yeah. Are we going to send it to someone else in the family? So it's, when you said grief is not just losing a person, but it's like losing who you are, learning to lose that loss. Like, because I was like, I'm fine. Like, I've moved, not that I've moved on, right? But like learning to love the things. But then going through that, it's just been, funny is a weird word, but it's been eye-opening to like think, wow, there's so many layers that I didn't even know.
It hits you when you think you've kind of hit a new,
right. And so, but that's
a huge thing. I feel like with any I try to educate my clients about this when they do leave the nest, that trauma responses, panic attacks, OCD, grief, any of these things that were depression, bouts of depression, anything that I'm helping someone learn to survive, overcome, hopefully reduce, it almost never is gone from your life forever. So you can really learn to identify your trauma triggers and respond differently, but your trauma is still in your body, in your mind. You know, like you have always lost your grandmother. That is always going to be true. And
Right.
so you will have these waves that seem like setbacks. And I'm always quick to rebrand a setback, or, you know, like, that's not what this is. This is, you're still living and you still have this experience in your orbit, even if you've healed a lot.
Right.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's always
and
gonna be
that's
there.
why I think therapy and counseling is so important,
Yeah.
because it's going to hit you when you least expect it.
Right.
And you may not know how to handle it the first time.
Sure.
But if you go see someone and you talk through it and you learn the things that you need to do, and the steps and the breathing treatments or whatever
Sure,
it is that
sure.
helps you, when you're driving down the road and your favorite song comes on
Yeah.
with your memory or something,
Sure.
like, you know how to take that step forward, or to
Yeah.
cry or laugh or whatever it is, you know,
Right.
and that's okay.
It's okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've mentioned the nest a lot.
Oh, right.
So let's
The metaphorical nest of therapy, but
yes,
also.
yeah. So being in Murfreesboro, we have Middle Tennessee State. So tell us about the Nest program that you have. I think I read about it on your website,
Yeah.
and it's so great. So
Okay.
tell us about that.
So it's on a break now because we're in the summer, but like, I think I mentioned that I rebranded like a year and a half ago, and part of that was deciding to add a team. I had found I was finding that I was getting more and more diverse referrals about different needs, and I want to be able to respond to every different type of issue someone has, but I felt like I also wanted to kind of hone in on the panic, on the trauma recovery, on the anxiety, grief, the things I really had strengthened my skills in. So I decided to grow into a team, bring on more people, which brought on the opportunity to just serve more of the community, right? And one thing my team really identifies as a need, and I have seen as a need living in, my office is in Midtown Nashville, so I'm right in the middle of Vanderbilt, Belmont, close by to Lipscomb. College is a hard time. So we serve college students with individual therapy, but we launched the Nest, which is group therapy for college students. We're willing to offer in-person and virtual. It just sort of depends on who reaches out, who needs it at the time. We want to accommodate. It's a lower rate because this is for the college student who is finding college to be different, more overwhelming, harder than they expected, but maybe doesn't quite need individual therapy on a regular basis. So this is it's a little more than what you might get at Res Life, you know, if you just went to like a residence life meeting, but a little less intense than therapy because there's a whole room of people. So it looks like processing. There's some coping skill development. There's a little bit of structure to it, but it is also kind of led by the participants who are there. I have some practitioners who are really skilled with groups. So I hope that this fall we have a good group. I think it's a great fit for someone who's like needs a little more support than they're finding at their university, but maybe not ready for individual. And you can be a part of group and individual at the same time. Also, they can serve a lot of functions, but that's one way we're kind of focusing on the college population here in Middle Tennessee, because there's a lot of colleges here.
Yeah. Yes. So what do you, when in college age students, what are you seeing in the trend world, the mental health trends, the social media aspect of life? Like, expand on that a little bit.
Sure. One thing that I've definitely seen I've been in this field for almost 20 years at this point. So I was a college student before Instagram, before Facebook. Like, we just had a university email address. We did not have smartphones. We did not have personal computers in our dorms, really. And I am seeing, and also with that came a lot of I now see in hindsight that I had friends with eating disorders and who clearly had trauma histories based on the way that they were behaving. Friends who dealt with depression. I dealt with depression, anxiety, but we did not necessarily label those things or call them. There was just not as much openness to talk about struggle like there is now, especially with this generation, which is beautiful. There's so much more openness. But I do think there is, when you have more awareness is a really good thing, but then there also tends to be misinformation, right? And so that's, I think, specifically anxiety is a big trend that I'm noticing. And it's true, almost everyone in the world is anxious, but that's also a condition of living, right? And so I find that with college students especially, I really applaud the desire I see to get ahead of something, to recognize their symptoms and try to get support for anxiety. But also I feel like I do a lot of heavy lifting to normalize. It's normal to feel anxious about certain things. That doesn't mean it's not a problem, but this is not necessarily, this is a condition of being a human. So this both and, like, let's support and help you develop tools to navigate anxiety. And also this is part of being human, that living. Awareness has also moved into like kind of over-diagnosing ourselves sometimes, if that makes sense.
Sure. Like everything I do makes me anxious.
Yes. Like, and misuse of words like triggers and gaslighting. It's good that we now universally know the term gaslighting. And also some people are just rude. It's not necessarily gaslighting you, or sometimes people lie. That's not necessarily gaslighting. Right. So, that could be a whole other episode.
Yeah. I had someone tell me so-and-so's gaslighting you. And I was like, what? What does that mean? Like, I'd never heard that term before. And then I read about it and I'm like, okay, maybe I still, it didn't click, right? I thought they were just being a jerk.
Yeah. It is the intentional manipulation for the gaslighter's gain, right? So making you think you're crazy, turning your words on you, telling you this, your experience didn't really happen. Right. It's not the same as just lying. Sometimes people just lie. Right. Yeah, that's.
So you have lying gaslighters.
Yeah, it's when you lie to someone and then tell them they're crazy for thinking you lied.
Right.
That is in the territory. Right. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of terms like that I'm like, that's not what that means.
Yes. Okay. So, speaking to college students,
sure.
What is something that you would say to them? And maybe that's a good question. Do you ever tell someone that they need therapy?
In my personal life or in my professional life?
Well, professional. We'll go professional.
Yeah. Okay. I have been accused of being a therapist in my personal life, where I'm, leaning into a little too to
the professional life.
Yeah. Ask my husband. I think therapy is a very personal journey, specifically in the role that I'm in. So I have worked in settings where it is my job to get someone committed to psychiatric care, right? Or in the school system to say, this child needs XYZ types of support. Where I am now, I am a resource. I'm over here. I want to make sure everyone knows how to find this support, but I'm not going to tell you what you need necessarily. It's very much the healing and growth is going to happen when you want it and when you're ready for it. So I might think someone needs it, but I'm gonna always leave it in the hands of the client. This is your story. This is your life. If your dysfunction, if it's working for you, it's working for you. Who am I to come in and say that I'm the expert on your life? So
it's a touchy slope, I guess.
I think I wish everyone felt bent towards growth and learning more and understanding their blind spots. I think it would improve the world over if we were all working to improve ourselves. But
right. Do you think the term mental health and all the terms mental health, so anxiety, depression, suicide, all of that, do you think the world that we're living in now is becoming more open to therapy, or is it the other way around, or is it more individualized?
I sense from where I'm sitting that there is more openness for help and support. And I think that's global to all kinds of things. We talk more openly about body image issues and nutrition and health and mental health. Like there's just in general, there's more openness about what's working for you as an individual. Here's a way to get help for it or support for it. Right. I do find it is a little generational. I find the younger generations are more attuned to getting help and, saying this is what I need help with. And I think that's great. That's a huge strength of that generation.
Right.
Or those generations.
Sure. Yeah. I think looking at in my personal life, I think, like I said earlier, I didn't ever want counseling because
Sure.
I thought I was failing or, I didn't want to go talk to a stranger about my emotions that I don't want to talk about anyways.
Yeah.
But I've seen just my friends and people in my family that have started to really dive into learning and making themselves better, right?
Sure.
Self-educating on those things. So I love the younger generation or whatever, what we call them now. I think it's great that they're doing that for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because they whether they want to do it or they feel like that it's the right thing to do, is awesome. So for those people, like how I used to be that are on the fence about counseling,
Sure.
what's something that you would say, to either ease their mind or to encourage them to seek someone?
Yeah. I think, what always comes to mind when someone is on, I have a lot of people that reach out and ask me is this really a therapy problem? Do I, just friends or friends of friends, do I really need therapy for this particular thing? And I always come back to, you do not have to do this alone. That's the whole point. You don't have to suffer from panic attacks for years and years and years. You don't have to sit alone in your grief and wonder if what you're experiencing is normal, or you don't have to Google coping skills. There are people who went to school for this. We have trained, I had to clock 3,000 hours of individual therapy before I could even be licensed. There are people that can help you find solutions to live a life that is more enjoyable and sustainable to you. So that's what I would say. You don't have to do this alone.
Sure. That's great. Now, if there's one piece of advice that you could give someone that wants to start today to support their mental health, what would that be?
Find a therapist. That would be the first thing. Maybe take an inventory of what's not working for you. Take an inventory of what how you want your life to look, and then call us.
Perfect. So that is a perfect segue into where can we find you?
Yeah. So we are in office sessions or in Midtown, Bicentennial Park, but we offer virtual all across the state. So anyone in Tennessee, if you're an MTSU student and don't want to come into Nashville, virtual is not a problem. The quickest way to find us is by sparrowcreekcounseling.com. You can see all of our team members. I think I mentioned I brought in people with different expertise. So I have people who are really good with kid therapy, play therapy. I have some clinicians who really center the BIPOC and queer communities. We have just various levels of experience. So it's okay to look at the website and say, I think I would like this one. It's okay to kind of judge the vibe based on
what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's perfectly. And that's part of having a team, is that I want rapport and feeling comfortable in the room is a huge part of it. It's not the whole thing, but it's a huge part of it. So look at our website, Sparrow Creek Counseling. Follow us on socials. We give a lot of free mental health tips, advice, strategies on our social media. Try to kind of keep awareness up, and we want the community to have what they need. So anything we can offer to support people for free, we try to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So your socials, you're on Facebook, Instagram.
Yes.
Perfect.
We're not on TikTok.
No TikTok. That's okay. All right. Anything that you want to add before we wrap up?
I think I would definitely want anyone listening to know that therapy can be for everyone. It can, whatever you've experienced, a licensed clinical therapist can get you over the next time. That can be it's not something that everyone needs forever, but I think it definitely could benefit everyone, at least for a time of their life.
Perfect. Well, good deal. Thanks for tuning in to my therapy session with Sara. And we hope to see you maybe on another one here in the future.
I would love it.
Yes.
I love to talk mental health.
Yes, we can get Trent in here. So like and follow, and we will see you on the next one.